Oh, come on. Don't play silly beggars now.
White and blue running through my veins. On the pitch where the glory remains. The cockerel stands brave on the crest. North London pride, this ain't no jest. From lane to the new shining ground. Echo chants where the legends are found. Heroes carved in the heart of time. We march on through grit and grime. Oh, Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire. Oh, Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire. Echoes of King and Greaves in the air. Every goal, the sound declares. Heartbeats pound like a drummer's song, marching forward, fierce and strong. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire. This is my club, my only desire.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome along to THFC Tottenham Till I Die. I'm joined by two legends of the channel tonight for this very special show. I've got to my right, I've got Big Steve, and just below me, our extra special guest, Tequila. How are you boys this evening? How are you guys doing?
Oh man.
After you, Steve.
Yeah, not as good as tequila though, right? Pre-show, tequila was buzzing, and I was like, man, that dude really is having a great day today.
It took me a while to stop dancing, Steve. I was dancing for quite a while. But the show must go on, and it has gone on. So,
Yeah.
What are we all feeling about it? It's supposed to start, isn't it? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I suppose so. Look, I'm not going to say I'm elated. I'm not going to say I'm disappointed. I think it's a sensible appointment, and I think would I have liked a bigger name through the door? Of course, I would have done. But we've had big names before, and they ain't done nothing. So let's give him his dues. Let's see how he goes. He's the new Spurs manager. I'm going to give him 100% support until I don't think he deserves that 100% support.
I want to congratulate Thomas Frank and his family on this appointment here. This is it's a big day for for the Franks out there in North London. This is by far probably his biggest appointment of his career. And so from that, I'm absolutely thrilled for him and his family. And I really do, James and Tequila. I really hope that Thomas Frank comes in here and succeeds. I want nothing more than success, not just for Thomas Frank, but for the club, for the fans. And I hope that the Europa League was just start of something special. But I got to be honest. And again, I want to preface this by saying that I don't think Thomas Frank is a bad manager. That's not what I'm saying. But to me, James, Tequila, I feel like this is a safe hire. You know what I mean? Like to me, this feels like it's like a comfort blanket, something that's a little bit more stable. And the only question that I have is, doing deep dives on Brentford as a club and the stability that Brentford had. I think their owner has been in place for 8 years. I think their technical director has been in place for the same time. Same thing with their president of football operations. And so the question is, did that stability make Thomas Frank, or did Thomas Frank elevate what was already in place, right? That's the question that I always keep coming back, right? Is he a system of their environment? Because we saw this before in Tottenham's history with Juande Ramos coming from Sevilla, and the stability of what Sevilla was able to create in Juande Ramos, and Tottenham failed to recognize the environment. And when he got here, he failed. And so to me, when this became crystal clear that this was going to happen, my first question before anything was whether or not Tottenham recognized the environment in which Frank was coming from, and whether or not this organization was suitable for Thomas Frank. That was it.
I think what you're describing, at least what it sounds like, Steve, is that you're describing, at least to me, a little bit like Brighton with Potter.
Correct.
Because obviously they brought De Zerbi in, and he managed to actually do slightly better than Potter.
Yeah.
And it's Brighton scouting who everyone's copying their networking, but they were the first one really to do it.
Right.
And it will be very interesting to see who takes over at Brentford, if they can continue to stay in the league and finish in the early teens or so, or in the top 10 where Frank's more or less kept them. I have the same feeling, and I think the word that I would use, and you said it already, Steve, it's safe.
It's safe.
It's a safe appointment. Is it the most ambitious appointment I've ever seen? Far from it.
No.
It's a safe appointment. Is that enough? Maybe for a year or two, but I can see in a couple of years we might be wanting the next big name. Hopefully I'm wrong. I want to be wrong because I don't want to keep changing managers, believe it or not. I don't. I hope this guy's a revelation. I want him to be. I've got no bias either way. Just like with Ange, I lost the trust in Ange. That's why I turned on him, because I lost the trust in him.
Yeah.
But at the start, there was no bias either way. I wasn't a fan of it, like Dermo was, because I'm not a Celtic fan really. But I had nothing against him either. It's the same way with Frank. All I do know is that Frank works great with a low budget, and that is going to be music to Levy's ears. And that's one thing that does concern. One thing that concerns me is Frank going to be much more willing to take what Levy gives him than other managers, because he's used to kind of working with such a low budget. He might not be that much somebody who's going to push back. Other people, other managers, someone like Conte. People don't like Conte. I loved Conte. Didn't like his football, but I loved him because you can see him backstage not taking any shit or any crap at all from Daniel Levy at all. That's why it didn't last long. I'm just worried that Thomas Frank, people want to say yes, man. That's not how I'm really phrasing it. Just that he might not push that hard back if he's got to deal with transfers that he may not want. We've heard the rumours. Apparently, he's been negotiating to at least have a say in the transfers. Let's hope that's true. So he will be a part of that process. But is he going to? Is he really going to? I'm concerned slightly that he's not going to stand up to Levy and the board when maybe he needs to. That would be one of my concerns.
Yeah.
My question to both of you really quick is because Tequila just touched on something that's absolutely very important here, that Thomas Frank had been used to working with small budgets at Brentford. The question now, does this hiring and his ability to work with small budgets give Tottenham the excuse to continue with this rebuild with a youth movement? where their transfers are the transfer strategy is designed for young kids that are 18 to 22 that have first team experience. But that being said, they're on incredibly low wages, right? Does this appointment continue with the rebuild as we've seen over the last year and a half, 2 years?
I think so. Yeah, I think it does. It can tie into that, and like I say, I never actually thought about it like that. There was some concern about the amount of money that Thomas Frank has had to work with, and is it? Look, I've got nothing against Dominic Solanke. I think he's a great striker, but it's the big fish, little pond syndrome. And my concern is Thomas Frank going to go from being a big fish in a little pond to now being thrown in a big pond and becoming a little fish? And because he is a little bit, like you say, a bit more reserved, Keeler, I think is a good shout. A bit more reserved, not willing to fight the board for the things, and pretty much accepting what Daniel Levy and Paratici say. Okay, you've got £100 million to spend over the course of the season. That's summer and winter window. If you need any more money, you're going to have to raise it through player sales. Who do you want to sell? And what positions are you looking at? And then Paratici goes out and finds the players for it.
Yeah, I mean,
that is my concern. Is like exactly what you said. It has sparked a little.
That's just my concern is that with under Frank, and it's not really me attacking him at all. Not at all. But because he's used to working within that, does that just give Levy the impetus to be like, okay, well, I don't have to spend again, do I? I can get these young players. I haven't got to buy experience again because it's because he's meant to be. He's regarded as a very good coach, and that's the key word, coach. That I can buy him these unpolished gems, and he will make them gems. He's got a decent track record of doing that, and that's what Levy does. And Levy will also see that financially. Hey, look, we remember he sold Modric for loads of money. He sold Bale for loads of money. And then our young players started. The quality of our young players did dip for a while. So the idea, I think, Levy is that we're going to get back to that. We're going to be buying these players, these younger players. That's why I think we bought Archie Gray. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Modric or Bale. Probably not. They're those two are two of the best players of the last 20 years, guys.
They're still developing, though. They're still developing. But the thought that came to my mind was, well, okay, because Pedro Porro's 24, Van de Ven's 24, about to be 25, Romero's 26, 27. You have Kulusevski, who's about to be 25. I wonder if Levy and Paratici look at that and say, well, no, we have experience already at the club. Betancourt's like 28. So it's like, there's already experience here at the club. So we don't need to target experience. What we need to do is continue to build on that foundation of building a young core, not just for this upcoming year, but for the future as well, too. And we're going to rely heavily on this experienced core that's in place, because after all, didn't they just win the Europa League? Like that, to me, that's my biggest fear, that they're going to address this Champions League season as far as experience and try to build with youth. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah. I was welcoming some people from the chat. Iceman's in the house. He says all fans will give him support and backing, but the only man who won't will bring the man that matters, and that's Levy. Absolutely, I agree, Iceman. Dan Davenport, big up Dan. He says, fine, Frank. We'll need time. He did very good at Brentford. Ange had to go because we finished 17th. I agree with you, Dan, and hopefully he will be given the time. Carl Simpson, he says, evening, I'm very pleased with this appointment. Now let's strengthen this squad. I agree that the squad needs strengthening. But that's just like what you touched on there, Steve, was how is that squad going to be strengthened? Is it going to be strengthened with youth and younger players? Or are we going to see a mixture of different types of players coming into the team? Hotspur Hub says, I prefer Frank over Ange, and he's more consistent and better at overperforming. I don't think he's overperformed. I don't think he's overperformed at Brentford. I think he's just developed that team. And I don't know what you guys think about it, is that he's sort of got younger players in, and he's developed them, and as they've developed as better players because of the quality of players that they're playing up against, and knowing that they have to make that step. It's then improved Brentford's squad in its overall. Sorry, Tequila.
Yeah, let me ask you, James. It's going to be harder for Steve because I know Steve's in America, but you and me, I've lived in the London area most of my life as well. Is Brentford the smallest team in the Premiership? If not, they're very close, aren't they?
They're very close.
Yeah. I would sort of coin flip it of Brentford, Fulham. Fulham has more history in the Premier League. Granted,
I thought it would be. I thought it would be between Brentford and Bournemouth, because the Cherries are a very small club.
Yeah, Bournemouth. I'd say Bournemouth are up there as well. I think Fulham. Yeah, but Fulham probably are of a similar size. I'd say maybe the reason I'm just saying that, James, is because I think it can be lost just on how small a club Brentford are, and there's no way really Brentford should be anywhere near the Premiership. I'm not even sure. I mean, but they maybe would I would say, in my mind, in the football pyramid in my mind, I would say Brentford are maybe a low tier Championship side.
Yeah,
I mean, they had been in the Championship
most of the history.
Forever.
Yeah, most of the history was League One, League Two, and like even going back to pre-Premiership football again, and when it was the old first, second, third, and fourth division, I believe that they were then classified as a third division team, and it is been quite a meteoric rise for them. But I wasn't trying to take anything away from Brentford and what Thomas Frank has achieved with Brentford. But I think he when he got the job, he was able to bring the youngsters in and develop them. But they all seem to want to play for him, which is what I quite like. Is he got the good man management skills as well. And so he's been able to get the best out of the players that he's got. Now, if he's been able to do that with the Brentford budget, what's he going to be able to do with the quality that Spurs have got already? I'm excited by that. But it's thingy. I do have the statement that the club released with regards to Thomas Frank. I'll just quickly read it out, guys. It does say, "We are delighted to announce the appointment of Thomas Frank as our new head coach on a contract that runs until 2028. Thomas has extensive experience in English football, having joined Brentford in 2016, since becoming one of the longest-serving current managers in the Premier League. During his time at Brentford, he transformed the club, moving them up from the Championship to an established Premier League side, consistently and significantly outperforming expectations for an extended period of time. In Thomas, we are appointing one of the most progressive and innovative head coaches within the game. He has a proven track record in player and squad development, and we look forward to him leading the team as we prepare for the season ahead. Thomas will join from Brentford, and this is what also excites me as well, guys, is his backroom team that he's assembled and managed to bring with him. So it says Thomas will be joined from Brentford by Justin Cochrane as the first team assistant coach, Chris Haslam, head of performance and first team assistant coach, and Joe Newton, first team coach analysis, with Andreas Georgeson coming in as a first team assistant coach, coming from Manchester United as well. I like that back room behind him. But I think the team that he's managed to get, and by what I got found out today, is basically that is what was holding up the whole shebang. The whole deal was the negotiations for the backroom team.
Right. Because Frank wouldn't come unless he was able to actually put together his coaching staff 100%.
Yeah, and like the Tonight Show does say, it says Thomas Frank's in. Channel's breaking news vindicated again. Now, what that actually meant is we've had a lot of stick recently about saying that we give out misleading information. Now, on Sunday night, roughly about 20 minutes time on Sunday night, about 11:40, I got the news that Thomas Frank had signed his contract. He was coming. It was just a case of the backroom staff deals being done and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So I went live on Sunday night at 11:40 and I broke the news that Thomas Frank was going to be the next Spurs manager. It didn't get announced until 5 days later. Now, people might say I took a lucky guess. I had a 50-50 shot. I don't take 50-50 shots. I knew then that he was coming in. Yeah. And the channel is vindicated again. The news that we break is correct. If we're telling you it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If it's just a rumor, we will say it's a rumor. But that's just what I just want to say. That's the reason why I called it what it is, because of the
vindication, baby.
Yeah. And that. But yeah, going back to his backroom team, Justin Cochrane is part of Thomas Tuchel's backroom team as well. I think is an amazing assistant coach. And I was very surprised we managed to bring him, because I'd heard that he was tipped to take over from Thomas Frank. And yeah, so what do you guys think of the backroom team?
I'm surprised. Just considering that we've had some big name coaches that weren't able to necessarily bring their appropriate staff, and I know that Ange Postecoglou himself didn't bring anybody, and you're wondering whether or not if he was allowed to bring anyone. Considering there was already coaches in place that essentially just made up his backroom staff. So from this standpoint, I like the fact that Thomas Frank was steadfast in his listen. You're coming off a season where you finished 17th. It's like, yeah, you guys want a trophy, fantastic. But in order for me to actually do my job effectively, I need to have the right people around me. So if you want me, you're going to have to bring in the right people. And I'm glad that he was able to get that done. I think this is going to be first and foremost. The coaching staff has to be united in one direction, and you can't necessarily have holdovers or guys that he doesn't trust that are in place already. So I'm glad that this ended up happening, because now at least you have a coaching staff that's going to be united in one in one philosophy, in one style of play. So there's not going to be different messaging, or there's not going to be any misinterpretations on the training pitch. So I like this. I like this 100%.
Yeah. What do you think, Tequila?
Yeah. I think Levy's kind of like going all in as far as the backroom staff. He's obviously had to pay for compensation to Ange, he's had to pay compensation for Brentford. So if you're spending that kind of money, if you're spending 20, let's say this is cost him 20 million, give or take, right? Then you might as well spend the extra million or two to give him all he wants, right, when it comes to his backroom staff. But this is all going to come out of the transfer kitty. Unfortunately, it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I think it's a good thing. And one more thing on Frank I did want to say, actually, is I think he's the perfect manager for Enoch. I didn't say Spurs. I said to Enoch. Because just a little bit like Pochettino before him, he's a manager who, and the key word is, like you guys have said, he develops players. He develops players. He makes players better. I don't think Ange generally did that, with maybe one or two exceptions. On the whole, they either stagnated and some of them even got worse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Frank, like Pochettino before him, is going to elevate the average of these players. The majority of these players will probably be improved. Not only financially does that mean if Levy wants to sell him, he'll get more money. I don't want to say that, but history says that we do sell these players. We do sell these youngsters. When the big boys come in for them, the next tier up, you know who I'm getting at, we do sell.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for us, we do sell.
Mm.
So that is something where I think if the backroom staff is going to accelerate that process and he needs good coaches and analysts next to him, then I think Levy's going to be all in on it. But I do think that we are going to be going down this young player, unproven player route. Are people okay with that? That's the question. I don't know if people are. Again, it requires patience, and we're not the most patient fan base. I know we were patient for 14 years, 15 years waiting for this trophy. I get it, but I mean, as on general, we're not the most patient fan base when it comes to our managers. So I hope we're going to stick it out.
Right, and especially considering we finished 17th, but now we have Champions League, right? So is the fan base going to be okay going down that road, knowing that there's Champions League this year, and Thomas Frank is walking into this club with a lot of pressure on his shoulders? Let's be real; he's going to be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, immense pressure. That to be fair to him, he's never probably felt before, because you can't. With all due respect to Brøndby and with all due respect to Brentford, you can't. Not the pressure he's going to have, not only the size of Spurs, but as you've just said, Steve, playing in the elite competition that he's now going to be in against the elite managers and teams of the world. So it is a step up for him.
And he's never managed a team in Europe. He's never played. He's never managed a team in Europe itself in a European competition. Not even with Brøndby did he manage a team in the European competition.
Well, I mean, we're going to find out. Just the cut of his jib, if that's the term I can use. We're going to find out, and the thing is, we're going to find out very quickly because the Champions League is going to be upon us before you know it.
Yeah, and we've got the. I mean, also don't forget, guys, we've got the UEFA Super Cup as well. So that's going to be his first big test.
Yeah,
his first big test in any kind of European football is going to be going for a trophy. In the UEFA Super Cup, and if he wins it, is that gonna then instantly elevate his sort of standing within the Spurs? Says, okay, come here, look, I've been here for 2-3 months, and I've got you another trophy. Yes, it is only the Super Cup, but that's a big trophy in my opinion, because
I would agree.
You're beating the champions of the Champions League. So that's going to be a big test for him.
You know, the interesting thing though, right? And Tequila. You were mentioning the true cut of his jib, right? So it's like, welcome to Spurs. Here's your first test, PSG right out of the gate. But that being said, it's like, does he get the manager bounce? Does he get the new manager bounce to start the season like Ange did? But what happens if he doesn't? And this team is still performing the same way we saw last year under Ange, where it's inconsistent. How quick does the patience? How quick does the patience fade? That's also a concern for me.
I think, Steve, there's a little bit of a difference, and let me just explain what I mean. There's a little bit of a difference this time because we had 2 negative managers in a row, 3 if you want to count Nuno. Though Nuno probably wasn't as negative as Conte, right, or Mourinho. But we had 3 kind of defensive managers in a row, and then once Ange came in, it's like the shackles were off. All the players could go and express themselves, stuff like that. And even though, yes, it didn't end well for Ange. Well, it did, but it didn't. League-wise, it didn't end well for Ange, right? We were shambolic this year in the league. Frank coming in, we're not going to be as gung-ho, but he's not a defensive manager either. He might be more defensive than Ange, but he's not as defensive as a Conte or a Mourinho. So I think that the players aren't going to they're going to get maybe slightly less freedom. I think that would be a good thing overall for the balance of the team. They're going to get slightly less freedom. Whereas I think when Ange took over, part of the reason for the bounce, in my opinion, was because the players literally felt liberated. We all heard the
Yeah.
rumours about Conte not allowing him to have ketchup and all this funny stuff. No ketchup, Conte said. You're not allowed ketchup, you're not allowed sauces. And it was made a little bit of a meme. But if Conte was really that harsh with the players,
strict with
the players, then you can imagine that when Ange come in, there's no way Ange is like that. I'm not saying that he let them get away with murder. I don't know. I wasn't in the dressing room, but he was not. He was going to let them have ketchup and stuff like that, right? So they felt liberated. What I mean is, and I think that played a big reason for the bounce. I don't think we're going to get the same bounce from Frank, because I just think that the players, if anything, are going to have a bit more shackles on them this time. So I don't know if we're going to get that bounce. That's my opinion.
But I think it's like it's like people say it about the kids. If you allow your kids to run riot when you need them to not run riot, and all they've known is to run, they can run riot, is they're going to run riot. But if you can sort of get them to understand that we don't need you to run riot all the time, then that's what they can behave differently in different situations. So I think Thomas Frank has got a more pragmatic approach, and he will tell them, look, you can be attacking, you can be expressive, but you've also got to be throwing in the defensive work. And when we're on the attack, we attack together, or when we're on the press, we press together, but we also defend together as well. And I think that's what Thomas Frank will think. Look, guys, we're just at the half hour mark. What I want to do is just take a couple of minutes to play the short video from our sponsor. It is Private Internet Access. It is a tremendous VPN service. I use it myself. If you want to have a listen and take part and pick it up, you can do. At the moment, there is currently an 85% sale on. So the price for the quotes on here, 85% off. So please just have a listen, and please hit the like and subscribe button on our channel. Thanks very much.
Let me talk to you. A little reference there, but I'm going to stop messing about. I'm going to talk to you about Private Internet Access, the best VPN in the land. Now, when you're online, you may not realize, but all of your data is there for the taking by anybody. With a VPN such as Private Internet Access, your data is safe and secure, streamlined, and nobody else can get hold of it. That's why I use one anyway. VPN's very easy to use. Private Internet Access, all you got to do is log on your phone, select where you want to be. So I want to be in America, and I click go, and there we are. You can also link up your devices to it from your phone if that is easier for you. It's available on a lot of platforms as well, as you can see, and you can use it for a very, very big range of things. So that's even better as well. You can use it, like I said, on all your devices, smartphone, tablets, gaming consoles, and stick it on your modem, and it's unlimited devices. One equals all. It's available all across the world, and it works perfectly. What they do is they mask your IP address, so pesky 3 o'clock kickoffs aren't an issue anymore, and they're independently audited, so there's no logs, 30 million customers, and 4.5-star Trustpilot rated excellent review. Private Internet Access. Get yours now.
Thank you, Ellie Knight.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys a question real quickly?
Yeah.
So which player do you think is going to flourish right away under Thomas Frank? What player right now on this team do you look at and saying this guy is going to benefit from Thomas Frank being the new head coach? And in the inverse, which player do you think is going to be shackled a little bit?
Oh, do you want to answer that one first, Kira, or do you want me to go first?
I think I've got an easy one for who I think is going to flourish. I'm not sure on the shackled one. I have to think about that one a bit longer. The flourish one, I think it's going to be Mikey Moore. Personally, I hope we keep him. I know there's talk of a loan. I don't expect him to be starting every week, even under Frank. I don't. But I want him to be used more than Ange used him. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think Ange used him enough. I think he'll actually the easy answer would be Bergville, but I think Bergville is kind of, I'm not saying he's a made man, but I think people already more or less think he's going to be starting a lot next season, right? Mikey Moore is still a little bit behind his development, and I think that this year or next year, however you want to look at it, this coming season is going to be his breakout season, unless we do decide to loan him. I mean, if we loan him to a championship club, it's not the end of the world, right? That's still not a bad move for the kid. But I would like to see him coming on the second half. I don't expect him to be starting every week. Coming on, maybe getting 30 minutes or plus most weeks. Or if they want to, or if they want to bring him on to the Champions League. At least I want him to be coming on as a sub most weeks. And I think that he can easily turn him into an extremely dangerous winger because we badly need a winger, guys. And I mean I don't mean Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson is what I call a wide forward. If you like your FIFA games, he's an FC, right? He's not a winger, right?
Correct.
Mikey Moore is a winger.
Yeah,
Mikey Moore is much more of a winger to me. So
what's interesting, James, is in the chat. There's a few people that say James Madison, and I couldn't agree more. And especially depending on the standard tactics of which Frank is going to deploy this team. I can see a scenario where James Madison flourishes, and by extension, Dominic Solanke is finally going to be able to be used correctly. And I think by extension, Solanke kind of gets into that 15-20 goal range next season. But I also think that it's going to benefit Kulusevski far better this upcoming season. But I will say that I do disagree that Van de Ven's going to regress. I actually think Van de Ven is actually a world-class center back, and I think he actually gets better now that he's not going to have to carry the responsibility of having to track back half a length of a pitch. So I think by extension he's probably going to stay a little bit more healthier. But I will say from a shackling standpoint, I can probably see Archie Gray being somewhat shackled. Because number one, what's his position? And number two, if they do settle on a position, when is he going to be able to actually get minutes to showcase that talent? Is this going to be a situation where Archie Gray actually goes out on loan?
You know what I hope doesn't happen to Archie Gray, and I have a feeling it may be going in that direction. It's way too early for me to say this 100%. But James will probably remember. Do you remember Phil Neville? You know Phil Neville?
Yeah.
What position did Phil Neville play? Please enlighten me. He played everywhere more or less, except up front, didn't he? And he never excelled at any of them. He was okay.
He was a steady Eddie.
Yeah. If Archie Gray needs to, in my opinion, Archie Gray needs to find himself a position. What is that position? I'm not sure. That's for the coaches at Spurs to figure that one out, and the lad himself, right? Because the lad's going to want to play there as well. So he has to have to say in it as well. I don't know what his best position is. People keep telling me he's a central midfielder, but he gets overrun a lot of the times I've seen him. At least in Ange's system, maybe it'll be different under Frank. But I don't know where he plays. This is after watching him for a year for Spurs. I don't know where he plays. I know where he can play, but I don't know what his best position is. I don't know if they
never found that out.
No, I don't think the kid knows, and I don't think Ange knew. Will Frank know? He wanted him at Brentford, so Frank's gone in for him before. Remember that? So there is that.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with you on that one, Steve. I think probably the player that's going to most flourish or really be able to think is Kulusevski. I think you're right, but I think Bergvall is too safe. Keeler as well. It'd be an obvious choice. Bergvall has shown progression already, and he's shown what he's about and his hunger and desire to want to be better and influence better. I don't know if he starts every game next season, Bergvall, but if he continues to develop, then I think he could become a very key component in that middle of the park. But I just think Kulusevski for me is destined for something, and I think he gets so much flack, does Kulusevski, and I think everybody forgets how young he is.
Yeah, he's only 24.
He's 24, and everybody gives him so much grief, like how poor he is or how disappointing. what you've got to understand is that man had to damn near him and Pedro Porro
Had to carry it.
this season. Pretty much carried that Tottenham team
Mm-hmm.
all the way on their fucking shoulders. So he had a bad. I don't think he had a bad season.
Mm-mm.
I just think he was tired because of the amount of games he had to play.
I would.
I think he was suffering. I think he was suffering from burnout. In all honesty, but I think a player that's probably most going to feel sort of maybe restricted. I think it could be a toss-up, Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie, whereas they were pretty much given free rein to charge up the field. I think they could be sort of told to look, go to the halfway line, maybe 10, 15 yards into their half, but you certainly don't want to be pushing up and being on the byline. I think he'll utilise the wingers as wingers, and I think that's what we need to stretch teams and put width into his game. Because although we had good width in underhand, we also became very one-dimensional. Like within the first 10 minutes of most games towards the back end of the season, you knew which side Spurs were going to be constantly going down. Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, all right, so we're going down the left a bit today, or we're going down the right. And that ball would be constantly going out to that side.
It was generally down the left-hand side pretty much all season.
Yeah,
for me, it's, right now we pretty much understand who's going to be playing the 10 when healthy. James Maddison will be deployed in that thing. But, for me, the biggest issue is that box-to-box role. Is that going to be Dejan Kulusevski's role next season, or do you think they're going to push him out to the wing on the right-hand side as Postecoglou did a little bit before this season? And then, of course, the coaching staffs prior to Postecoglou were using primarily on the right-hand side. Or is that going to be an opportunity for, Lucas Bergvall to grab some minutes as a box-to-box guy? That's the thing. It's like, what's mutually beneficial for both player and club? Me personally, I think that, because if he's going to deploy a double pivot, is he going to go a 6 and an 8 with an 8 playing a little bit higher up? Is it going to be 2 6s? That's the thing. It's like, how is this thing going to measure out, and what's best for the club in this situation? Me personally, I think it's Kulusevski.
This leads me to something I said to James the other night while I was in the chat. I wasn't on the show, and that was about the lack of these box-to-box players. Like Steven Gerrard, I remember saying, was like the ultimate one.
Yeah.
And my question is that who do we have who you think? You've mentioned Kulu, right? I don't see that, but who do we have in our squad, or do we need, or is that something that we need to go out and buy, even if it is on the younger side? Because I don't think we're going to be spending. We're not going to get these ready-made players, guys. I think we need to just accept that. We're just not.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised. I'll be very surprised. We might get one. We might get one.
I'd be surprised if we get, because Mbeumo, the whole transfer, Man United transfer of Mbeumo seems to be crumbling around Man United at the moment, and there's talk that we've put a bid in, and he wants to follow Frank to Spurs and that. So, why wouldn't he want to follow him to Spurs? In all fairness,
well, he immediately starts. He's right into the starting 11.
Yeah, and
sure.
So, but I see him playing sort of more to defensive midfielders rather than a sort of 6 and an 8. I'd say probably the only half decent box to box midfielder that we've got is sort of Lucas Bergvall.
There's a lack, isn't there? That was the kind of my point. There is a lack of that in the squad.
And possibly Paps are deployed in that position, but it's look, Papsar is good at certain things, and he's got unbelievable talent, and I think he can develop, and I think he will get the benefit from Thomas Frank as well. But again, very much like Archie Gray, he does, yes, fair enough, and he hasn't played up front and he hasn't played centre back or right back. But pick a position in midfield. What's going to be your expertise? Are you going to be a box to box? Are you going to be a central holding midfielder? What role are you going to thing it? As well as the position, what role are you going to play in this team? Because if you're going to be a central defensive midfielder, stop wandering too far forward. If you're going to be the box to box, be a box to box. And don't disappear in games sometimes. So I don't know. So yeah, we do have a massive lack of depth in that central defensive midfield, box to box position.
We also have midfielders that are almost like Archie Gray, right? Where you don't necessarily know exactly where their true position is, and where their spot on the field is actually going to make sense. And I bring that up because with that said, is like there's still underlining rumors that Tottenham could go out there and secure the rights to Joe Bellingham, who actually is a true box to box and who is thought to be ready for a move up to the Premier League after a couple seasons in the Championship, and who's considered like one of the best young box to boxes in England right now. Not as good as his brother, but that being said, he's still pretty damn good and thought to be ready to make that move to the Premier League, which I can understand why Tottenham are interested. They have need.
Yeah. And that is probably the kind of signing I think I would probably be expecting. I think a lot of us aren't going to be content with that, but that is the kind of signing I do expect to see bringing in.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the players that have been rumoured to be interested in, or Tottenham being rumoured to be interested in, I think you'll see a big shift in what rumours are going to start being circulated now, because I think the way we're going to be looking at players will change. So because of the manager's philosophy, whereas Tottenham's usual transfer approach, it's sort of scattergunned. It's every player that might possibly even thought of being available, Spurs are interested in. I think it's going to quieten down, and it won't be every player under the sun. I think it'll be certain youngsters that will be targeting. I mean, the media won't know about. They'll just still go with their rumours, but I think you'll be able to pinpoint who's actually a genuine target and who's not a genuine target. Because if someone's been touted at 30, 28, 29, 30, you're going to know that kind of age player isn't going to fit the mould of what Thomas Frank and the coaching team want.
I mean, the way that Spurs transfer windows, there is a kind of pattern. There's a couple of exceptions, but I mean, we've all seen these patterns. Tottenham do tend to make one marquee signing every summer. Last year it was Solanke.
Yeah,
it could be. Maybe it might be easy for me to say this year. Maybe someone else, but that is normally what we do. We buy one kind of quality player, and then, as Steve said, the rest is so scattergun. We normally spunk up the money for one good player or one at least experienced player every year. Like I say, you got last year with Solanke. Year before, I think you could say it was probably Maddison. So there's always one around about the 40 to 60 million mark. Richarlison the year before. There's always one.
Yeah.
There's always one. Yeah. So I don't know who it's going to be. It could be Eze. But then the rest of the money will go probably on 4 or 5 of the younger players. And I expect it under ENIC. That is how they do things. I don't know if it's going to work. I think we need more than that. We're competing in the Champions League this year, fellas. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to get battered every week. I don't expect us to go. I don't expect us to go and win it. I'm not even sure if we'll get out of the first stage. Maybe we won't, but I don't want to be the whipping boys, and I'm worried we are going to be.
Tequila, you mentioned that they spend on one player. David Clark here in the chat says, I think the last player Spurs need is under Frank is Jack Grealish. I don't see him suiting Frank's ideas, and the money needs to be spent in other areas. And I tend to happen to agree with this one. That if that is going to be the underlying transfer strategy, only bringing in one player that has that experience, I tend to agree that I think they can do a lot better than Jack Grealish. I do think the position does need an upgrade, especially if they accept the Saudi bid for Sonny. There's going to be a massive hole as far as experience goes on the left-hand side, and so I do think that could be upgraded. But I happen to agree with David Clark here that I think Jack Grealish is probably not a good fit anymore.
And Steve, how would you feel if they sold Sonny for 60 million and then they spent most of that on getting Grealish? How would you feel about that?
I would think that it's a waste of £60 million.
But that'd be perfectly Spurs, wouldn't it? Look at what we did with the Gareth Bale money.
Oh, yeah.
I would like it if they went out and got that money for Brian Mbeumo. I think that would be good money well spent, because I think Brian Mbeumo can play at this level, and I think he's very productive at this level as well too. His football IQ is off the charts. He understands exactly what Thomas Frank needs from wingers, from his wing, and he's actually excelled year after year after year under Thomas Frank. So I think that would be a natural fit. I would actually have no problem if they went the young route either on the left wing. The curious thing is is Wilson Odegaard ready to step in and take that role? That's a very interesting question.
So it's a question from our esteemed colleague Dermot, who's
very drunk, James. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah. Probably absolutely hammered off his tits. I just want to say as well, Dermot, I know you're watching. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you and Derville, by the way. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really nice to meet you both. And I hope to do it again soon. So his question to the panel is, what would be a good first season under Frank? I think me and you touched on this, didn't we, Steve, a couple of shows ago?
Sure. Sure. I have no problem doing this again, though.
What would you think then would be a good first season under Frank?
Well, first and foremost, Dermot, it's good to see you in the chat today. And by the way, thank you for the super sticker. And of course, we want to encourage everyone to sign up for those memberships right now. We are on a race to 5,000 subs by the end of the 25-26 season. But the more memberships that go out, the more that we can do membership shows. And it's good for everybody. It's advantageous for everybody if you get those memberships in, and we have different tiers that suit your needs as well too. Shameless plug right here for the channel.
Nicely done, though, Steve. Nicely done. It was like smooth.
Talk away.
So how do I see his first season? I think in general in the Premier League, anything in the top 10, I'm fine with. Would I like to see it as high? Would I like to see a European spot like 5th or 6th? That would be awesome for Thomas Frank in his first season. I think that would be great, and it would actually show that it would reflect the true talent that is on this roster that I believe that we have. So if it's anywhere between 5th and 8th, I think that's a little bit overachieving, a little bit for his first season in the Premier League. But what I would like is, again, in the top 10, anywhere between 5th and 9th. And I want to see them get out of the league phase in the Champions League. If we get knocked out in the first round of the knockouts, I still think that's actually pretty good to get past the league phase. And then I would like to see at least a finals appearance either in the League Cup or the FA Cup. If not, at least try to win at least one domestic cup this upcoming year. I'd be perfectly fine if they reach a final in either one of those. Being competitive in the cup competition, getting to at least one final. I don't care which one it is, either the League Cup or the FA Cup. Finish within the top 10, preferably in a European spot, whether it be Europa League or the Conference League, and get out of the league phase in the Champions League. And I think that is an excellent starting point for Thomas Frank.
T.
Because that shows competitiveness, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, both in what I think and what I expect. What would be classed as a good season? I think getting respect in the league back. Now, what does that respect look
Yeah.
like? Everyone's going to have a different idea of what that respect is. I'm on Steve's wavelength. I do think that the top three are completely out of touch next year for us.
I would say top four, wouldn't you think?
I think the fourth place is probably Chelsea's. It depends what Newcastle and Villa do. What does give me a little bit of optimism is that, like we saw this year with Nottingham Forest, there is room for us. I expect us to be round about the conversation Villa, Newcastle, of that ilk. It depends what United do this year as well. United, they've made a good signing already. We'll just have to see what Amrin does. I think in the top 10, and he won't get any grief off of me, most likely. I do think we could sneak into the secondary. So you're looking at Conference or Europa via the league, an outside chance of that. So yeah, I'm thinking. But if you're going to put me on a spot, I'd say between 6th and 8th. I think that's what I think. And as far as the cups are concerned, I actually don't expect us to get to a final. I don't. I think actually expecting that with the way that the cup competitions are domestically, I think that's actually very difficult to predict, because all you got to do is get unlucky and you face one of the big 3 or 4 in one of the early rounds.
Correct.
And you're gone.
Correct.
So it's a bit. So I generally don't judge the managers that much on the cups, because there is so much of luck involved in the cups, depending on who you draw. Champions League a bit different because the format's different, right? It's not knockout. The first half of it isn't knockout. So I'm like Steve. If we can get into the second part and we finish in the first half of the bracket, so we get to the knockout stage, anything above that, I'd take in a heartbeat. That'll give us. I think that will give us some respect back a little bit. I know we're the European champions, but I don't think we're particularly respected because of the league. So that's what I'm looking for. I want respect back personally. I think that would be a good season for Frank. I think any kind of European qualification, I think most people would bite his arm off. Via the league, if preferable for me. But of course, I'd take a cup. I'm not saying we can't do it, but it's a difficult thing to win a cup every year. Very few clubs do that. Very few really can do that.
And by the way, I'm not saying that I want them to win a cup, but at least challenge for a cup by getting to a semifinal or for a final. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But I also just want to say that, because Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City are constantly competing for the league and the Champions League, they usually rotate early rounds of those cup competitions. So I'm not necessarily too worried if we get one of those in the first or second round or whatever the case may be. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I mean, to be in all fairness, what I consider a good season, I'm very much like you, Tequila. What I consider a good season and what I want to see as a Tottenham fan, and what my brain is in cloud cuckoo land thinks we're going to achieve, are all very, very different things. So I think the league positioning 5th to 8th is respectable. I think I'd like to see us get to the latter stages of the Carabao Cup, or definitely the Carabao Cup, because I'm not trying to disrespect the cup or diminish the cuppies, but some of the bigger teams, they don't always field their strongest teams.
Right.
So that should be so. And I'm not like I say, I'm not dismissing that competition, but that's just a fact. Your Manchester Cities, your Liverpools, Arsenal, they tend to use heavy rotation in them competitions because it's a competition that, yes, they would like to win it, but it gives them a chance to develop their younger generation of players with a spattering of experience, of course. But I think I would like to see us reach for at least the quarterfinal or semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, if not win it. I mean, if we get to the final and lose, that would still be, I'd still be okay. I'd be gutted, but I'd still be okay with that. 5th or 6th round of the FA Cup would be okay for me. And Champions League, you see, I don't want to just say, okay, if we get to the knockout, for like the playoff knockout round. Because you could get to the playoff knockout round with maybe 2 victories in the league phase and then go out in that. So I wouldn't really. I'd like us to be respectable in the Champions League. If we go to sort of like a mid-table, mid to top end of the table of the playoff qualifying round, and we give whoever we get drawn against, we give them a good run for the money, and we're unlucky to go out, I'd be okay with that. But I would ideally like to try and reach at least the round of 16 in Champions League. I might be. That could be my cloud cuckoo land brain talking.
Well, I mean,
but
because the top eight automatically qualify, right? The top 8 automatically qualify, right? And I don't think it's necessarily out of the road. Depending on how the summer goes, I think that's the big if, right? But I don't think that's impossible to sneak into the top 8. And I agree with you, James. I think getting it at least to the knockout rounds is a respectable showing. But I think really for me, Tequila used the term respect, get that respect back. And for me, it's getting consistency with European play. We had the Europa League after a year off of European play. We got the Champions League this year. And if we can at least get Europa League play next year, I think that's respectable, because there's something respectable about consistency. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. And I've got no. We are Spurs TV says give Frank a chance. I'm giving him a chance. This was just we was just asked by Dermot what would we think could be a successful first season, and we were just sort of spitballing ideas out there. We are Spurs TV. I think whatever he does, as long as he doesn't finish in the bottom half of the table, would be a good season, would be better than what last season was league wise. So if he can finish 10th and win a Carabao Cup, would I be happy? Absolutely, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I think
I'd be absolutely fine with that. If we get mid-table and we reach, I don't know, say somewhat crazy like we reach the semi-final of the Champions League, we get kind draw and a good run and the confidence is up and we get to the semi-final of that, would I be happy then? Yeah, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
I just want to see Spurs progress. And my biggest problem with Ange is I saw us regressing in Ange.
Yeah.
What would be it's a weird question to ask, but what would be the lowest league position you'd accept? Difficult, isn't it? Going into this season.
13th.
13th.
Yeah, I was going to say
anything lower than 13th, and I'd be disappointed, regardless of how well we did in the cups.
Yeah, the position where Brentford finished this year. Anything lower than that, it's a huge disappointment.
Do you think the fan base as a whole would agree with you, or do you think they'd be much more cutthroat? I feel that they'd be a bit more cutthroat than that. I
would agree. I would definitely agree with that, and it begs the question of whether or not something like that happens, and whether or not the board cut bait on them after a year.
Yeah,
Daddy Ange in the chat. I mean, the fact that you're called Daddy Ange probably tells me what you think. But why does it matter? It's called conversation, mate. That's a show. It's a show, bro. We're talking about it. Why does it matter? It's conversation.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter it doesn't matter to me, and it doesn't matter to anybody else. It's just our opinions. And I tell you who it matters to most of all, and that is Levy and the board. That's who it matters to.
That's who it matters.
And it doesn't. Trophies don't matter, because once again,
Daddy Ange here says trophies matter. So all you care about is trophies and nothing else.
And if he's an Arsenal fan, what trophy have you all lot picked up for the last 5 years? Just saying. Just saying.
Now you go, James, mate. Enjoy it. Go on.
Just saying.
The thing about it is, it's like and it gets back to the pressure that Frank is under, right? Because I think we all recognize that there has to be significant improvement with this club, and so it begs me this question, and this is a very serious question for you two. Last year we finished third. We didn't even reach the 40-point plateau, and it just so happens that 3 teams were worse than us. But regardless of the 17th position, were they as bad? Do you think this team right now was as bad as their league standing last year? Because I don't believe that at all.
No, I don't think. I think it was an anomaly.
It's a difficult one, Steve. It's like you finish where you deserve to finish, kind of thing. I've got that in my mind. But if you look at the players on paper and the game's not played on paper, you look at the players on paper. No, we don't have the 17th worst team. No way.
Yeah, I think it was a comprehensive decision by Ange Postecoglou to chase the Europa League, and it turned out to be the right decision. But that being said, when he rotated in the second half in the league, I think he knew full well that the players that were rotating in for the league were not good enough to compete there. And I think in some context, you're right. I think that 17th position was earned. But that being said, the question is whether or not, if Ange actually just decided to employ his best teams, regardless of the Europa League and the league, I seriously doubt that we don't finish 17th. I think we probably get to maybe that 50-point plateau, if all things were equal, potentially.
Yeah, I mean,
he threw the league. He threw the league, though. Yeah, I mean, Spurs TV is right. We are Spurs TV. You can't just throw the league. You're right, and that's exactly what happened.
And that's what ultimately got him sacked.
Yeah, I don't think any of us. I don't think there's any Spurs fan, right, who actually would have thought we were going to finish 17th. Not one of us thought that. No way. Not one.
What I love is the supreme hypocrisy of Spurs fans, right? Because before the season and mini seasons, they said that they didn't care if we finished 17th as long as we won a cup. Well, that transpired, but it wasn't good enough.
Daddy Ange just put in the thingy. Would you accept if Frank finished 17th and won a trophy? Yes, I would accept it, because we'd have still won more trophies in 6 years than Arsenal have won in 6 years. So yeah, I would accept it. I would accept wherever we finish, because there's nothing I can do to change that. I would accept it. Would I be happy? That is a completely different story.
Yeah.
As a Spurs fan, I would not be happy, but I would have to accept it.
I would accept it because what is the goal of playing a season anyway? What is the goal? To win silverware. That is it. So whether it's the League Cup, whether it's the FA Cup, the Premier League, or the Champions League, the end goal result is to win hardware. That is why you play. And if we finish 15th to 17th again and won one of those 4 trophies, that's all that matters. Mission accomplished. We won a trophy.
Yeah.
I disagree with you on that one, Steve. Otherwise, I would have been happy with Ange to stay. If all that matters was trophies, then I would be adamantly saying, why the hell did we just sack Ange Postecoglou? He brought us our first trophy.
No, I get it. I get it though.
I agree. Yes, of course, you're right in what you're saying, that should be the end result of everything is to have glory. But I don't feel we had that much glory. We won the cup. Yes, we had that moment. But the league as a whole, I felt terrible. For most of this season, I was miserable about my club. I was miserable about them. I don't want to be feeling that. So whilst the bottom line, Steve is correct in what he says regarding the end result is a trophy, but you have to carry yourselves, at least I think, in a certain way, so I can feel proud. And I go back to that term of respect or feeling proud, whatever you want to say. I don't feel proud. Even the cup win for me was a little bit hollow, because I just didn't feel proud of the overall team and the overall season. I enjoyed myself in that moment, but I came down really quickly off of it. Because the whole season, generally, I was so depressed for most of the season. So I understand what you mean, Steve, but I will be, I'll accept it, like James said, because James is right. We're fans, we have to kind of accept it. I'll accept it too. But if Frank finishes 17th and wins the Carabao Cup, I'd expect him to be fired as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Daddy Ange was saying you was never winning the league, and it's like, duh. But also, neither were you. Always finishing second place. Arsenal always second best.
It's like he says it, but he says he's a Spurs fan, but he says you were never winning the league, so that doesn't make sense.
That's true. That's true. If he was a Spurs fan, he wouldn't be saying you, would he? So.
It would be we were never winning the league instead of you. And if I'm guessing that's supposed to be Mikey Moore. I couldn't care less where I finish. I'm a legend in my first season.
I'm a legend.
I'm a legend.
I
don't know what it means.
I don't get it.
No. Neither do I. Anyway, guys, I wasn't going to run for as long as we have, but it's just come up to an hour, and I am conscious about the time and things like that. So we'll call it a night. Obviously, Thomas Frank coming in. We had a good discussion. I enjoyed it. I really did. It's a new era in the Spurs dynasty, we'll say, in the Enoch dynasty. It's it's Daniel Levy's umpteenth manager. I've kind of lost count.
He's had more managers than hot dinners, James, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's now
12.
I thought it was
12
like
or 13.
Oh, I think it's more than 12. You know, since they first came in at 2000 in 2000, whatever it was. I think it's like high teens. I think could be wrong.
Yeah, I've got to Google it. I've got to Google it now and find out how many.
It depends if you want to count all the interim managers like Mason and Stellini. If you want to count them as well, it's definitely high teens.
Yeah, I would agree to that too. But I know we're about to finish it, and again, I do want to thank James, and I do want to thank you, Tequila. This was absolutely fun. But most importantly, I want to congratulate again Thomas Frank on his appointment. I hope this is I hope this is the start of something unbelievably beautiful at Tottenham Hotspur. Lord knows we deserve a nice little 5-6 year run where we win some trophies, and that would just be unbelievably brilliant. And who knows, maybe Thomas Frank is the guy that unlocks it. I do think there is a lot of momentum coming off that Europa League win. And so I just hope that this leads to something beautiful, and I wish nothing but success for Thomas Frank in what I consider a huge appointment for him.
I just want to say, really, for me as well, I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think we can help ourselves, and I don't mean the people generally in here, but I want as many of us as possible to get behind the manager and not jump down his throat if he doesn't start off with the same kind of 10-game winning run we had under Ange, because that's very difficult to do and probably won't happen. I'm not saying it can't, probably won't.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we persevere and give him time. They all need time. Ange needed time as well. Ange got 2 seasons. Frank should probably get 2 seasons as well, at least.
Yeah. So overall, all in all, by the way, it's 15 permanent managers since Daniel Levy took charge.
Yeah, I thought it was somewhere around there, 15, 16. Yeah.
It says in 24 years, he's overseen the rise and fall of 16 managers, including caretakers.
Yeah.
So it's 60 with Ange Postecoglou now and Thomas Frank, but it is his 16th manager in a little over 24 years.
Yeah, so the average is about a year and a half, I think, isn't it? It's like 18 months or something. It's
about 18 months. And you've got to think that how long Maurizio Pochettino was there was the anomaly.
And
he was there for 5 years.
Redknapp was there for about 4 years. Was Redknapp there for 4 years? Those two are the 2 longest, aren't they?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah,
and you think if you take that out of the 24 years he's been 24 years for being in charge, Enoch, and you take out 9 years, that leaves 15 years. taking out the two managers, that's 15 years. In 15 years, we've had 14 different managers, including caretakers.
Insane, isn't it? Really?
That's insane. I do hope that Enoch and Levy in the front office are going to extend the same courtesy to Thomas Frank as they did with Ange Postecoglou, and give him at least the same amount of spending power that they gave under Ange Postecoglou, because that actually means that you're getting close to backing the manager, which means we're actually going to be able to kick on and compete this season. So I really do hope that they're going to extend that same courtesy. That's my only wish and desire, is that at least Thomas Frank is going to be able to start off at least on the same level as what Ange Postecoglou was able to as far as spending goes.
Yeah, we can only hope. I just want to say thanks very much, guys. Thanks very much for joining me tonight.
Cheers, James.
It's been a good one. Dermo is back on Monday, everybody. I do know he's got. I think he wants to do a show on Monday. I don't know what time or what it's going to be about.
He'll still be drunk, James. So he'll come on live.
Yeah,
pissed off his head.
Yeah, absolutely, probably. I'm going to call him Steaming Dermo. But yeah, thanks very much for tonight. It's been a pleasure to have work with you both, and been a bit of a different sort of a setup, but I have enjoyed it. So thank you very much, Steve. Where can people find you?
You can find me in two places. Number one, on X at Stateside Footy. I'm definitely there. Available to talk football anytime or day. I do enjoy those type of conversations on the old X machine, but also on YouTube at Stateside Footy as well too. I know it's very generic. I know that the channel name, it is what it is. But that being said, this weekend we do have the Saturday morning Spurs conversation as we do get into the Thomas Frank hire and also the potential vacation of Tottenham legend Son Heung-min. As there is a very solid rumor that he is going to be exiting for the Saudi Pro League. So we'll get into that as well, too. And yes, I know Dan Davenport has asked, and it is true, this Saturday, it will be the first Club World Cup live stream featuring Inter Miami versus Al Ali, which I believe is from the Saudi Pro League. So that's going to be the first coverage of the Club World Cup. So yeah, definitely we're going to have that on Saturday at 8:00. Eastern US time. So that's where you can find me. Nice.
Thanks very much. Tequila?
You can find me on here now and again. I am the Ben Davis of the channels. I'm the backup guy. I'm stuck in the back. You don't really want me ever playing, but there's going to be injuries and times where I'm going to have to come in off the subs bench or to entertain you guys where I can. And I do have a small gaming channel, comms on it as well, called the Play Pouch, where we just cover games. And I'm going to be doing a let's play on a game called State of Decay 2 coming up in the next couple of days probably. So please join me at the Play Pouch on YouTube. And that's it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah. And at that point, we will bid you all a good night and adieu. And until the next one, thanks very much for tuning in.
This journey